Hey everybody, what's going on? Jim Cyril and Tanya Klein here from Coverage Inc., the leader in screenplay analysis, development, and editing services since 2002. And once again, we'd like to welcome back Dan Benamor. Hello, Dan.
Hello again.
Dan, so we're thank you for taking a little bit more time with us. We wanted to talk a little bit more to you about the whole podcasting side of things. In addition to being a writer, producer, development executive, all these hats that you have worn and continue to wear. You are also a podcasting producer. Is that right?
Yeah.
So yeah, talk a little bit about that. I think that's very interesting because new media really seems to be something that writers need to understand more. As traditional screenwriting, those pools of money for us seem to be more and more difficult to access.
Yeah, I mean, what I do in podcasts is basically create primarily narrative style podcasts to be used as IP for eventually movies and TV shows and documentaries and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of like a reverse engineering thing. The idea is that as opposed to just a naked script, if you have a podcast and you can demonstrate either like creative proof of concept, like you executed it really well, or sort of market traction, meaning it performed well, or ideally both, right? You've executed it really well and it performed really well. And then take that and try to use it to leverage the IP to become movie, TV show, documentary, etc.
Okay, that's very interesting. So, just to clarify, those are fiction, not nonfiction podcasts.
No, it's both. So in nonfiction, to do a narrative style podcast, it's like if you would watch like a true crime documentary on Netflix, right? It's still designed, right? It has to be organized in a narrative fashion. It's just not like scripted.
All right. So basically, they're also not open-ended. It seems like they're like a limited series then.
For the most part, we have done some where we've had multiple seasons. Yeah, we've done a couple where we've gone to a season two. But yeah, the idea is for the most part, what we have done is these sort of, a little bit in a way, kind of what started the boom in podcasting was shows like Dirty John and stuff like that. These shows that Wondery used to do and probably still does some. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're doing like super high production value, but limited number of episodes.
Okay. So, and as for subject matter, are they all like similar to true crime, or is it all across the board?
It's all across the board. We've done every possible genre, like conceivable. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, go ahead, Jim.
Well, so what's the show? Tell us, and we will link to it in the description.
Well, so it's not
Or
just one
shows.
show. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm the head of podcasts at a company called Voyage Media, and what I
Yep.
do is I supervise the production of all of the podcasts on the network. So if you go on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and you just type in Voyage Media, you'll see literally dozens of shows. We have a channel on Apple. Apple does a nice job kind of organizing them all under one channel. So you can literally click on our channel and see 51 shows, and there's sci-fi, there's horror, there's action, there's crime, there's comedy, there's true crime, there's everything you could think of.
So how did you get into this?
So interestingly enough, I had a script that I loved called High Beam, and the idea of the script was that you're in a car the whole time, and there's somebody like stalking you, and he's calling you on the phone, and anyway, so I wanted to make it in some fashion, so I made it as an audio drama. Like I just called a bunch of actor friends and had them do the lines, and then I taught myself how to put the sound effects and stuff, and I made kind of like an audio drama pilot. And then I shared that with some people. And one of the people that I shared it with was Voyage Media, who I had known, for a while. And so they saw that I knew how to do that, and they knew me and trusted me. And so then we started making them together, and then we've subsequently made a lot of them.
So did you know going in that this was something that you could monetize?
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I mean, we are always the first to say like, what we're really chasing is the film and TV outcome. Like, we're not making the podcast just to make a podcast. It's part of the larger strategy is that film and TV outcome.
So you're creating IP, basically.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Okay,
Very
so
interesting.
So when it comes to skill sets, in particular for screenwriters, it seems there would be a lot of transferable skill sets because you're basically writing audio dramas then, and you're casting them with actors.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like being a writer director, right? It's just the only part of it. And again, I mean, honestly, probably my biggest professional regret is that I did not start doing podcasts immediately. If I had taken all the energy that I put into writing a bajillion spec scripts into doing literally anything else, first of all, but specifically podcasts, if I had started at a younger age, like I have a friend, a guy named Terry Miles, he did this. He did it at the right time. And there was sort of a boom in podcasting, and he sort of rode that wave significantly. So yeah, it's one of those things. I just always encourage people like it may seem technologically intimidating, and it kind of is. I mean, there's a bunch of technical stuff you got to learn, but if you're sort of a self-starter, there are many, many independent audio dramas. So it's not a uncommon thing for people to do them on their own. What we do at Voyage is with more of an infrastructure, meaning there's like a set, there's a sound engineer and there's a composer and there's all these other people that help you with it. But it is something that you can do by yourself if you're willing to put in the work.
So, how difficult is it nowadays to actually break through and create true IP that people may have heard of? Because there are so many podcasts nowadays.
Yeah. It's difficult, but it may not be as difficult as people think. So there can be a perception that because there's so many podcasts, it's like this is impossible. And what we figured out, relatively early and then increasingly as the years have gone along, is that you're not really competing with millions of podcasts because the millions of podcasts are all being listened to like 100 or 200 times per episode. That's what's really going on, right? And then if you get to, thousands of listens per episode, immediately you've cut out like 80% of
Mhm.
podcasts, right? And then once you get into tens of thousands of listens per episode, all right, now you're approaching top 10, top 5%. And then as there is with many other, types of industries, there is sort of a upper echelon that is dwarfs everybody else, right? Where they're getting like, whatever Joe Rogan is doing, right?
Right.
200
Pod
million,
Saves America. And stuff.
however many millions of dollars, right? But that's like the absolute minority of the space. So if you have something like, just as an example, there's a lady I spoke with. She created her own audio drama by herself. It's a personal story. I believe it has to do, if I'm remembering correctly, with like Asian American identity and family history and stuff. And Apple featured it. And because Apple featured it, it really got traction on the podcast chart in fiction. And it's just a great calling card piece for her, right? And it's just because she made something really good. Her artwork was good, the quality of production was good, the writing was good, and somebody at Apple noticed and featured it. And now she has, even if that never becomes anything, just for her as a writer, it's a really nice, sample of her work. And she can point people to it, and people can go read the reviews and see that people really liked it. So, I think there is still opportunity there.
So yeah, that's amazing. So basically, you've created a lot of IP that you can mine. Excuse me, I have to clear my throat. A lot of IP that you can mine or Voyage can mine. So how does that work? For example, if there is a topic that you think, you know what, I know a guy who might be looking to make something like this as a feature. Can you just send him the link or does Voyage own?
Yeah, no, I mean,
How does that work?
so Voyage, we have like storytellers that come from all over the world that come to Voyage, work with us, and then we take their project, if it's a podcast, turn it into a podcast, right? And then once it's a podcast, then yeah, having that link and being able to just point people to it is awesome because it's not, what I always say is like, it's not like, hey, here's a script, take my word for it, it's good. It's here's a podcast. I have 600 user ratings that are like all 5-star. I have like 36 glowing written reviews. I can show you data of all the downloads that this has gotten. I can show you data of how many people listened to the first episode and made it all the way to the last episode. I have all this data that proves to you objectively from
Yeah.
strangers that this is good. And so it's not just me telling you it's good. I have basically proof that it's good.
Yes, you have a
So it
proof of
just gives you
concept. Yeah.
it's a stronger starting position than if you just have a script.
Yeah, so let's say some a screenwriter is watching this thinking, well, I have this spec and I think it would make a good podcast or a good audio drama. What would your advice be? How would they get started? What should they do?
Yeah, I mean, there's two paths, right? You can do it by yourself, or you could come to, for example, Voyage Media. If you do it by yourself, I think the big thing is to just design it around whatever assets you have available to you. So in my case, when I did one by myself, it was like I was friends with a composer on Twitter. And I said, would you mind letting me use, like, essentially repurpose some music that you've already used? I wasn't even planning on releasing that show publicly. That was just an industry thing I was going to pass around. Then I was friends with a bunch of actors. I said, would you mind, just we'll record it all at the same time. It's just a couple hours of your time. Like, just sit with me. We'll record it. They said, sure. Um, I'm a writer. I could direct it. I could edit it. So that's the sweat equity I could put into it. So it's like whatever assets that you have available to you. And those things that I just described are pretty much accessible to anybody, right? Anybody can go find a group of actors. Anybody can, now with the way technology is, quite frankly, you could probably figure out how to write your own music if you really needed to. Or you could find one of a bajillion talented composers that would probably do a better job. So yeah, it's all there if you're willing to just do the work.
Yeah,
Awesome.
right
So
on.
let's say somebody records their podcast and now they have their finished podcast, their finished audio drama. First of all, are there certain rules like how many episodes? If it's, let's say somebody converts their screenplay into a podcast, how many episodes would that be? What's like the normal, like, or the best practices length of an
Yeah,
episode?
runtime. Yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly.
mean, I would argue that there are no rules, but there's certain things that we have adopted that we feel like work, and that the listeners give us feedback that indicates that maybe that's the right move. But I don't think there's any rules. We've done 8 episode seasons. We have a couple 10 episode seasons coming, and we typically try to keep the episodes this like my sweet spot's like 25 minutes because
Hmm.
my logic is I want it to be something where you're like, all right, I'm driving to the grocery store. I'm going to get my groceries. I'm going to get back in the car. I'm going to drive home. I want it to be where maybe you got to stop in the driveway and like sit there for 3 minutes to finish the episode or something. But if it was an hour 15,
Right.
you got to save it for when you're going on, a long road trip. So you want it to be something that people can consume in the course of their day-to-day lives in a convenient way. Because people don't listen to podcasts. It's not like, let me sit in this room and do nothing but listen to this podcast. That's no one consumes
Right.
podcasts that way. The only way people consume podcasts is I got to do the dishes and clean the kitchen. I'm going to put this podcast on in the background while I do that. It's in the background as you're, weeding the backyard or something, right? So if you design it for where the audience is going to consume it, I think you're more likely to have a positive reaction from the audience.
As a writer producer, then who has also done film stuff, is there anything that you're currently in the process of trying to adapt, or you think, yeah, this is something I've always had in mind that this could be a feature that you're working on getting that going?
That's currently a podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, so many. Oh,
So all of them.
yeah. Well, we did this one called Endgame that I'm so proud of, and just turned out great. I'm really, really proud of it. And it's a little bit. We were worried that it might be politically sensitive, um, and then we released it, and we got a couple of like troll reviews, but like the overwhelming majority of the reaction was really positive. And yeah, I just love it. I mean, there's certain things, that's what's cool about it, is you can do things that if you told somebody the concept, they might be like, wow, that might be a little,
Hmm.
you can just go make it.
Mhm.
And then the audience will tell you, you know. So that one I'm super proud of, and I really am pushing to try to get that, either set up as a TV series or a movie or any adaptation of it. We would be thrilled with, but really proud of that one.
Right on. Cool. All right, great. Any other advice you might want to pass along to anybody who's thinking of exploring this realm?
I mean, I think whether it's podcasts or, I started messing around with short stories. I just wrote my first novel, like anything you can do. It's sort of a hilarious piece of advice from a screenwriting perspective. It's like, stop writing screenplays, go write something else. But I really do think that diversifying what you're doing is a pretty important part of this. I think if you just write screenplays and you just kind of keep banging your head against that wall, there's limits to, versus if you write it in other mediums, you can get people really excited about it. And then the hilarious part is you can then force them to hire you to adapt your short story or podcast or whatever. So yeah, you could force them to give you the screenwriting job after you make a great other thing.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Dan, thank you so much for taking the time. Where can people find out more about you or your work in general?
Let's see. I have to remember the name of my own Instagram. That's how little I use it. But I do. The one thing I do on there is if I post something about something on there, then you kind of know that I really think it's good, because I pretty rarely post. My Instagram is danb_makes_things.
Got it.
That's my Instagram.
danb_makes_things. Very cool. Hey, thanks for taking the time, man. And if anybody has any questions, as usual, what do they do, Tanya?
They email us at info@coverageinc.com.
.com. There you go. Thanks for taking the time, Dan. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And we will see you in the next video.